West has been dealing with the countries like Saudi Arabia, and there were similar issues of women's rights. Women were not allowed to move outside their homes without their guardian. I think the similar situation exists in Afghanistan. If West can deal with the Saudi Arabia for decades, why can't it deal with the Taliban, which has a similar theological pattern of dealing with the women's? And again, bigger issue here is again the difference of opinion, difference of the perspective, and perhaps I would again call it a clash of civilization. Women in Afghanistan and the Muslim countries, they are happy with the kind of the restrictions they have imposed upon themselves. It is not that the families are imposing, it is not that the governments are imposing. Only in Afghanistan, there is a government which is imposing restrictions onto the women. And most of those restrictions, they don't have to impose because women being Muslims, they are afraid of God and they are following those kind of restrictions. So I think the West needs to have a broader understanding of a Muslim culture and Muslim ideology that would help them to understand Taliban. And because of lack of their understanding, because of lack of their understanding of their traditions and the culture, the West has terribly failed. And the net result is that the Americans have lost its prestige, and now it is competing with the China to maintain its status as a great power. I would insist the US is no longer a superpower.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I understand you correctly. Are you saying that because it's embedded in the culture of that society, it's women are choosing to stay at home or contribute less in society and contribute less in education or the workforce, and it's not necessarily a strict imposition of the Taliban as it's being portrayed in the Western media? Is that correct?
Let me explain it further. I think there was also some problems with the Taliban's previous government. They banned the women's higher education in the universities. But this time around, they have agreed and they have reopened the women's universities. Only conditions that they have come up with is the segregation of male and female students. I think that is something which should be acceptable to the world outside. And that is something which is embedded, again, the point that you made, embedded very much in the religion, embedded very much in the culture and the traditions of Afghan society. So in countries like Pakistan, we have all kind of systems. Women can take hijab, women can go to the university with or without niqab, everyone is free. But in countries like Afghanistan, women themselves opt to take hijab. And even the non-Muslim women in Afghanistan, they take hijab and they what we call it in our language as a parda. So the West considered that perhaps this is the restrictions imposed by a male-dominated society. I think if you talk to the women in Afghan society or in any Muslim society, they would tell you that they are afraid of their God because it is ordained by the God, it has been ordered by the God. So that is something which I think West is not understanding. And very importantly, when Taliban say that the women should be, whenever they move out of a home, they should have their male guardians with them. I think that is more for the safety of the women, that is more as a security guard, and no one is more reliable for a woman than their own relatives, the closest one like husband, brothers, son, and other relations in the blood. So this is a lack of misunderstanding. Taliban's basically reading the text of Islam, the ahadith, which means the saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And when people talk about Taliban and their restrictions, they must, I think, study Islam, because that is where the Talibans, they are taking their parts from.
Okay, Javed, thank you very much for enlightening us there. We appreciate your time.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
that is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.